Hey guys, you're back with Steph and Dennis, and today we're talking about financial literacy. If you didn't already know, we're somehow already into the month of November, and November is Financial Literacy Month here in Canada. But no matter where you are in the world right now, it's never a bad idea to start to get educated on all things money. And this year more than ever, throughout 2020 and largely attributed to the pandemic itself, it's been a really challenging time for pretty much everyone financially. Whether that's housing markets changing like we've talked about before, people losing their job, many different industries and the economy taking a hit. So it's more important than ever for people to become financially educated and also really start to gain more confidence in their financial decisions and be able to make decisions that are the best for you. And today we're really excited to film this video because we're actually partnering with the Canada Deposit Insurance Corporation, or CDIC, which later on in this video we'll see that we're going to share some tips and free resources to use, all thanks to them. So stay tuned for that later on in the video. But before we get into it, if you're excited for this video and you want us to make more videos like this one, show us some love down below and let's get into it. So before we dive into anything else about this topic, we really want to touch on what financial literacy means and what that really entails. Financial literacy is truly one of the most important, most valuable life skills that you can develop. But on the flip side, it's one of those weird ones where you really kind of have to pursue that learning on your own. Dan and I've talked about this a few times, but even if you're specializing in something like finance in college or university like he did, you're typically learning all of those skills and how it pertains to companies, as opposed to how to actually implement that financial knowledge for yourself and in your own life. And that's actually one of the major reasons why we were inspired to start our YouTube channel just over a year ago. There are so many different things that everybody goes through, but nobody really talks about, or they don't really get vulnerable and share their own personal experiences, whether that's navigating your early career, whether that's managing your finances, or everything else that surrounds those two big topics in our life. And financial literacy is a huge part of this. Even though money is truly a part of our everyday lives in more ways than we even realize, people en masse still don't talk openly about things like their salary, which we've talked about before on our channel, their budget, what they're spending, even with their family and closest friends. And what's unfortunate about that is that's some of the best ways to learn tips and realistic, real-life ways to do or things not to do with your money for yourself in your own life.
Okay, so I know that I've said this before, but for me, financial literacy basically means opportunity. For a lot of young people out there, including both me and Steph at a certain point in time, you really do rely on your family and your friends to help you understand personal finance in general, or, some of the nitty-gritty topics that not a lot of people talk about. And if that fails or you want to learn more, luckily we live in a time where you can go on YouTube and you can look up people like Steph Den who can, break things down for you even further, right? It's kind of funny, but I remember the first time that I realized it was bad for you to sign up for credit cards in exchange for items. So I don't know if you've ever been on campus at your university where they literally have people standing in, different booths, and they'll exchange like a sweater that says, your school's name or something if you sign up for a credit card. I was literally mind blown when I realized that it was bad even though they were on our university campus. Like, that's crazy. Overall, being financially literate and making sure that you're on top of things is going to allow you to make the best financial decisions for yourself. And the earlier you start working on it, the less mistakes and the less regrets that you're gonna have in your future self. For example, let's say you graduated with no student loan debt and you have a job that's paying you $70K a year, you're living the dream, but at the same time, you're someone who takes on a $40K, car loan, you're someone who spends everything they make. In this case, you're actually taking on consumer debt. Your lack of financial literacy and awareness is literally putting you behind someone who technically started off behind you and makes less money, but instead they're putting their money towards their saving and their investments.
Dan and I found this survey that was conducted in 2015 that we'll leave the link to down below so you can check it out further. But overall it found that only 61% of Canadians could answer 5 out of 7, not even 100%, just 5 out of 7 financial knowledge questions correctly. Although you interact with money every single day, whether that's consciously or unconsciously, the majority of people do not frequently think of their entire financial picture. And if you're anything like me, it's easy to get really frustrated with not understanding everything and all the nuances that come along with handling your money and your finances effectively. But like learning any new skill, it takes hours of dedicated time and practice and attention to actually learn and develop that skill. So we're gonna dive into what you've all been waiting for, which is actually some of the different top tips that we have to improve upon your financial literacy. There are so many different ways to learn about finances and money, but sometimes because there are so many different ways, it can be really hard to know where to get started and what resources and tools and tips are actually available for you and are the best ones for you to use. use. Some of those resources, of course, include YouTube videos and channels like ours, hopefully, also different books on investing and all things money, but there are also different resources available like the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada and also CDIC. As I mentioned before, today we've partnered with CDIC, aka the Canada Deposit Insurance Corporation, to actually share with you some completely free resources and different avenues of information to help you get started on your financial literacy journey. Essentially, what CDIC does is provide insurance or peace of mind in general against any eligible deposits, whether that's your individual bank account or joint account. So for an example, let's say one of their various member institutions fails. So that could be either a variety of different banks, a federally regulated credit union, different institutions like that. If that were to happen, CDIC will cover you up to a limit of $100,000 for each eligible category. And we're gonna include a link in the description box to the entire list of members on the CDIC website. And we're sure from things that we've talked about on our channel before that you'll recognize some of those names. And we're also gonna throw up onto the screen what types of deposits are covered, because I'm sure some of you are wondering if this includes your TFSA, your RRSP, etc. Overall, CDIC insures eligible deposits up to $100,000 for each of the 7 different categories that we showed. So with all that being said, in order to further break down what they do, but more importantly, why you even want to know who they are and what they can bring to you in the first place, we have to go over a few more things.
So to kick us off into some of CDIC's resources, right off the bat, number 1, they're not a bank. Number 2, they're not a private insurance company. And I also want to say that contrary to popular belief, when a lot of people hear that CDIC is a crown corporation, they actually assume that it's funded by the government. Well, they're not. They're actually funded by premiums that are paid to them by their member institutions, and they don't receive any government funding or any public funding whatsoever to operate. So to give you guys some context, between 1967 and 1996, there was actually 43 failures here in Canada, all of which any eligible deposits were covered by CDIC. So for anyone who's freaking out a bit after hearing the word failures, luckily there haven't been any since that point in time. And with that being said, CDIC has a ton of resources. They've got a bunch of tools, and the good thing about it is that they're all available for free. You guys know we love the word free on this channel. Obviously we share a lot on this channel, but really when it comes down to it, I wholeheartedly believe that there's no need for us to reinvent the wheel, especially if you can get tools out there for free that are gonna help you move towards your financial, literacy journey. Some of the tools and resources that they have include training and learning games. They've got articles and information. They've even got a deposit insurance calculator. They've got a member search page, so if you're not sure whether the bank that you bank with or the credit union, whatever, if you're not sure of whether they're a member of CDIC, then you can actually go on there and go through the list yourself and see some of the different institutions that are on that list. We'll obviously have all these tools and information linked down in the description box below, and once again, they are free, so keep that in mind as you're going through it.
Okay, so in addition to learning consistently, we do have a few other tips and steps that you can take to improve your financial literacy. So suggestion number 2 is to create a budget. Take a sense check of what your current financial situation is looking like, but also start to really get in tune with what your future financial goals are. Do you want to be a millionaire one day? When is that one day? By what age? Do you want to buy a house? Again, when? Start to list out those future financial goals and also the timeline that you want to hit them by. Obviously, we talk about budgeting a ton on our channel. I recently did a video actually updating you on how my 2020 budget is going and if I'm going to hit my savings goals. So you should check that one out after this one if you haven't seen it yet. But overall, you really need to just get started and create that budget. And we really wanted to show some of the free resources that you have available to you to help you get started with that. But there's also free online budget planners like the one from the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada or the FCAC that we'll have linked down below for you, and also tons of apps like Mint that we mentioned tons of times on our channel. Whatever budgeting method works best for you, totally fine. Pick the one that you're gonna actually stick to, and make sure when you're creating your budget that the main thing you're focusing on is limiting your expenses. Ideally, you'll be paying as little as you can on housing. I think the overall rule of thumb is 30% or less of your take-home monthly pay for your monthly rent, mortgage payment, whatever it might be. Also limiting things that can get really high, like your phone bill, all those other expenses, try and bring them down to as low as they can be, especially if they're gonna be an ongoing fixed cost. After you've limited those expenses, make sure you're then focusing on saving and or investing the rest of the money that you have coming in each month. We've talked about it before in past budgeting videos that we'll link around here too, but we personally, and me right now, hi Steph, my goal is to save or invest at least 50% or more, ideally, as my income continues to grow, of my monthly take-home salary. After you've planned out how much you're going to be saving on a monthly basis, or ideally if you hit your goals, actually write that out for year over year and see how long it'll take you to save up for those financial goals that you wrote earlier when you were starting to create your budget. Does that timeline of how long it's actually going to take according to your budget line up with how long you want it to take? So for example, I'm 24 right now. If I want to buy a house when I'm 26 and I know I need XYZ amount in order to do it, if I mapped out my current savings projections, will that even be possible by that age? If not, you know now, years in advance, and you can either adjust your budget or adjust your realistic timeline so you don't hit 26 and I'm not freaking out about not being able to buy a house when I wanted to. Overall, the main takeaway here is to pay your future self first. And if you want more information about budgeting, about saving, everything like that, check out those past videos of ours that I've mentioned and also our playlist as well. That's all about budgeting and saving your money.
So the third suggestion is for you to learn about topics like house hacking, buying used cars, getting your free credit reports annually. Remember, free credit reports annually that you can get. How to handle your taxes and understanding how that process actually works. Remember, it's not as difficult as people make it seem. Learning about the different types of insurance and which one's best for you, or if you need insurance at all. All of these topics that I just named are all ways that you can stay on top of your full financial picture. And remember, you need to do this now, not later when you're quote unquote older, right? And finally, number 4 is taking advantage of all the free resources that you have at your disposal. So there's obviously the ones that we named today that you should definitely check out, but there's other ones that we've listed in the past that are all there for you for free. There's things like budgeting tools, student loan debt calculators, insurance calculators. Remember, overall, we've covered a lot of these steps in more detail in our how to build a financial plan video. So if you haven't checked out that video, make sure you check it out up top. Once again, we basically just walk you through all the different steps that we just mentioned, but in greater detail. So if you want to check that video out next, make sure you do so. Alright guys, we hope that you enjoyed this video. We hope that you liked hearing our thoughts on financial literacy, on how you can make yourself more financially literate. Once again, we want to give a shout out to CDIC for working with us on this video, and we hope that you guys take advantage and you check out some of the resources that we linked down below. If you haven't checked out some of our previous videos on money, on budgeting, on everything financial literacy, make sure you check them out next door. Once again, we'll be back next week, same time, same place. You already know the deal. Let's get it.